So in this screencast, we're going to cover the 9-2 word splash concerning how the United States really acquires Louisiana in the early 1800s. So in your word splash, we were discussing certain topics and certain words, but sometimes you'll hear this area described as the Louisiana Purchase, and other times you'll see this saying Louisiana Territory. The only difference is the Louisiana Territory is the actual physical land itself. Louisiana Purchase is the process by which negotiators, diplomats, the Senate approving it, the exchange of money by which we acquire it. So that's the only difference there. So if we ask questions and go through this pretty straightforward as a beginning, middle, and end, you got to answer the question, who controls Louisiana as of 1800? And in your reading and in the videos, you understand that Spain controlled it even after the time period of the American Revolution. Then we find out that secretly the Spanish had given it to France. So you have to understand that only one time was Louisiana Territory ever sold. So when Spain gave it to France, we have to understand the reasoning behind it and why that kind of gave us concern. So this occurs in 1802. So as we go into the next one, I asked the question, why is this concerning or scary to Americans? And so the reason why Americans are concerned about this is we have to understand a little bit about European history. And at that time, you have to understand that the French leader, Napoleon, had been conquering most of what today is Europe. And so he was obviously engaged in creating an empire in Europe, and we were fearing that he would perhaps, now that he was our Western neighbor, perhaps would want a North American empire to go with that. The least of our concerns is that we felt that perhaps he could limit expansion or trade up and down the Mississippi River. You have to understand the Mississippi River traded and used thousands of boats and millions of dollars worth of goods up and down. And the idea of having somebody that could be perhaps an aggressor or someone that could limit things concerned Americans greatly. So part of his plan, part of Napoleon's plan, is that he wanted and needed Santo Domingo in the Caribbean. Now, today it's the country of Haiti, and then on the other portion of what was Santo Domingo, the island of Hispaniola, is the Dominican Republic. So if we take a look at a map right here, we can see the United States here. We can see Spanish possessions of Cuba. Jamaica was actually a British possession. You see the Bahamas. All these were various claimed areas of parts of empires from Europe. So Santo Domingo, or Haiti, was the French portion of that empire in the Caribbean, and Napoleon needed that area as a base of operations if he was going to do something in what today is North America. So I've said his name numerous times, but here he is, Napoleon Bonaparte, a genius as far as a military leader. So here he is dressed in his military garb, and then here he is as emperor. Yes, he declared himself emperor of this empire that he had created, and then here he is again. But Napoleon goes on to become a great military conqueror in the early part of the 1800s. But luckily some things happen that is out of his control and not part of his original plans. So as we have been discussing, on the island of Santo Domingo there was and had been an ongoing slave revolt of the enslaved people on that island against the French overseers. And so that had been continuing, and when Napoleon came to power, he attempts to crush this rebellion. So he sends an army down there, about 30,000 strong, to crush this rebellion and take the island back. It fails. Thousands of his French soldiers die, and the main reason they die is not always in battle with the enslaved people, but they actually die in large numbers of yellow fever or malaria. The tropics were filled with mosquitoes. Malaria was a constant threat, and this really decimated the French army. And so Napoleon decides he's going to cut his losses. This is, of course, the guy that we talked about before, Toussaint Louverture. He is sort of the person on their money. He's sort of their George Washington. He's their leader. And once this happens, the events in Haiti show Napoleon that he has to change his plans. He's engaged in a war with the British. He is moving towards Russia. He needs money. And so he decides to sell the entire territory to the Americans. They had already been there wanting to buy New Orleans and West Florida, the area of the Panhandle up near where Pensacola, and they were willing to pay $10 million for that. Napoleon, kind of in a fit of not rage, but just excitement, decides, I want to sell the whole thing, give it to him for $15 million, and the thing goes through in 1803. So it all kind of quickly happens that America moves forward with this purchase. This is going to be the biggest, best land deal the United States had ever invested in. It's $15 million. It's about 3 cents an acre is what it turns into, because there's 828,000 square miles and over 500 million acres of land that is used and or exchanged at the time. So you take a look at a map, you can sort of see, and in some of the videos they'll tell you that portions or parts of 14 different states come from the Louisiana Purchase, and in doing so in 1803, Thomas Jefferson expands the nation, doubles it in size. Now the only thing that Jefferson has to worry about is it constitutional? Because remember, he's a strict constructionalist who doesn't want to do things to expand federal power, and he doesn't really believe in doing things that are not in the Constitution. There is nothing in the Constitution that says that the United States President can purchase land. But in this instance, he sees what is best for the country, not just specifically his party, but the country. And so in here, he does a flip-flop and moves forward with the purchase. $15 million was basically twice the federal budget as it was in 1802. So that's a lot of money. So you'd have to look up what the federal government spent just last year, and then you double it. And so you'd be talking in the billions of dollars if it happened today. So this is where we end. These are the words that you should have used in your word splash. The only one that I probably had left out is Charles de Talleyrand. Remember, he was the foreign minister that basically informed the delegates there that Napoleon was willing to sell the entire territory to the Americans. So thus ends the Louisiana Purchase, and we get ready for the idea of the next step, which is going to be the exploration of it.